As many would say, the quest for love has been a timeless pursuit. And in recent years, Capital Seoul has been seeking to play matchmaker for the singles in the city. We have more on Press Perspective today. Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Press Perspective. I'm Min Sunhee. Valentine's Day is here for those of you who may not be aware, and accordingly, we start our panel session today with efforts by local authorities to play Cupid. For more on this, I have news correspondent Celio Fioretti with French daily Croix here in the studio. Celio, as always, it's great to have you here.
Glad to be here.
I also have writer Colin Marshall with the pundit's take on the various social issues to be addressed today. Colin, it's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Right, Celio, we'll start with you. So it's Valentine's Day, as I mentioned at the start, and I understand you covered an event in the afternoon by Seoul City aimed at matchmaking the singles in the city, if you will. Tell us more.
Exactly. To help Seoul, it's to find love on Valentine's Day. The Seoul Metropolitan Government and Hanwha General Insurance are jointly hosting a blind dating event dubbed an exciting art night. That's the official title. On today, so there was two events. One was on a much smaller scale in the afternoon, and the bigger one in this evening. Have been to the first part that was held today in Hanam-dong in Seoul as an observer, not a participant, of course. So the event that will follow today and tonight will invite 100 single men and women, 50 of them, who are registered residents of Seoul to find maybe a potential future partner during this event. The whole event will revolve around the theme of art, so that it is displayed around in the building on a few different floors, and it could serve as a nice breaker for maybe the shy ones, or if you don't really know how to start the conversation. Just talking about art pieces could be a great way also to know what are the other people's interests. Maybe you like the same painting, and that could be already a first start. So they will also have private one-on-one conversation if they find someone more interesting than the other, and they can also have dinner there. So the idea is really to have like a long dating night to really get to know each other. It's not a speed dating. It's really a way to meet people and maybe try to take the time to really know them and maybe go back with someone that you can call your partner maybe. So at the end of the event, each participant will have to choose 3 names that they preferred in the evening, and the city of Seoul will contact them the next day to see if there's matches, if someone also picked your name, and if there's a good match, then maybe there's a new dates happening in the future. This for this event, unmarried men and women aged to 25 to 45 could apply for it. Of course, they have to submit any legal document proving they're not married in the first place, but also no criminal background, or the people participating are selected by the city, so it's all safe and made sure that everybody can enjoy the night. So I just been there this afternoon. I have to say it was very interesting and maybe weird for me, because we are not really used to that kind of thing in France, but in Korea now it's kind of a trend. There's more cities also doing it. The people there were really happy to participate. For them, it's really the big issue these days in Korea is that you don't really have time or the occasion to meet new people. Maybe you're working or busy with your family, with your parents or sister, brother, and you don't really have time to just go out and meet new people and try to date. So they were really happy about that. A lot of things were planned. They could take pictures, play some games. There was a bingo event going on also. And so far, that was just like the test run this afternoon. So they didn't really, we didn't have any results officially. We'll see maybe tonight. The city of Seoul is quite confident in their program. They said last year when they tried with a different formula, they had 22 couples made on the events out of 100 possible couples. So it's quite a good result. We'll see how this one goes, and they're planning to do a few more of them throughout the year also.
Right, so it's not an annual event. It could take a couple of times throughout this year then. Right. Colin, a number of these matchmaking events organized by local government authorities have made international headlines as well. Could you share a few of them with us?
That's right. It's not just Seoul. One example is the Boston Globe in the U.S. recently devoted an article to and incorporated into their news podcast coverage of this matchmaking event, a similar matchmaking event in Seongnam, a satellite city of Seoul, which makes the news for various reasons. But it's a city known as being filled with tech companies or companies that have young professionals, that hire young professionals. So there's a certain sense of, I don't know if you want to say elite, but a certain stratum of society. And there are many singles available in that stratum is the idea. And Seongnam City is going to bring them together in a series of events. This was not speed dating. This wasn't like everybody gets 15 seconds to talk. These were a series of events, each hours long, according to this article. And what really stuck with me, or what was telling it to me in a way, is that one important factor in all of this was they would arrange or organize the participants by their MBTI, which is the short way of saying Myers-Briggs type indicator. And for those of you who don't live in Korea, you might not know what that is. It's a system that it got a lot of action in the 80s and 90s in the US as in like corporate training to figure out whose personality is what. You know, you could be an INFJ, you could be an ENTP, you could be introvert, extrovert, you could sense or you could think. Each letter stands for something different. One of two options to code your personality. So for some reason, I'm not sure why, in recent years, MBTI, the system, the Myers-Briggs type indicator, has just it manifested in every aspect of Korean society. And to me, it's kind of funny because I myself, in school and high school, gave a presentation on Myers-Briggs because I was studying the Carl Jung, the psychiatrist who invented the sort of typology that the system uses. And so I gave my class in high school MBTI test. No one knew what it was, but we all had fun doing it. And now, 25 years later, here I am in Korea whenever I get interviewed. The first question is, what's your MBTI? And I don't know because I've refused to take the test again. But for an event like this, it's not surprising. Like the first thing you have to know is what, you know, if it wasn't MBTI, it'd be something else. You know, what group do you fall into? What code does your personality adhere to? We're going to put you with the compatible types. And so that's a very Korean aspect of this. But this is going on in different parts of the country with varying success rates. But it is attracting attention, even in the US and even in Boston, where you think Boston is a city that has no shortage of young professionals itself, but it is one of the lowest birth rate states in the US. I didn't know that. So that's, you know, hence the interest. They want to see what Korea is doing. If Korea can solve it, Massachusetts definitely can.
Right, fingers crossed for that. Celio, I understand the response, though, to these matchmaking efforts has been rather mixed. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, indeed. Municipal administration have been scrambling to host matchmaking events to help boost the country ever-falling birth rates. But criticism is rising over, is it really efficient or not? According to data collected from municipalities, at least 30 local governments across the country have led such programs, such events in 2024, just last year. Normally, these events are held for 1 or 2 days in the form of group meeting, as we both explained, where dozens of men and women could meet, visit maybe a tourist attraction, do some activities together, go on a boat ride. And the idea is, yeah, to really make people closer together and provoke the fate, the good fate, and make people maybe be forever partners. The department in charge of this event in municipalities are mostly division responsible for tackling the low birth rate and all the social welfare policies around that. And they have a lot of budget, actually, to do that, from tens of millions to more than 100 million of won to organize such programs. So it's a lot of money. And, of course, people want to know if all this money is well spent on these programs. And so the goal of this program are to maybe have more marriage, have more babies in the near future. But as one of the representatives at the National Assembly started to investigate, he found out that it's not really effective that much. A total of 4,000 people have participated in this matchmaking program run by local government over the past years, but only 24 people ended up married, actually. So yeah, meeting someone at a matchmaking event doesn't really ensure the city or yourself that you will be married in the end with them. So a number of local governments, now that they know these statistics, have started to cancel these programs because they felt it was too much money for too few results in the end. And some municipalities also have tried to desperately keep organizing them, even filling this event with some workers from the city hall to this. There was a big scandal a few months ago, but in the end, the trend seems to decline the last months, after maybe 5 years of trying and without seeing any good result of it. We'll see if maybe on a bigger scale, like the city of Seoul, which is much bigger than the rest of the municipalities, has tried, even bigger in Gyeonggi around Songnam. Maybe on a bigger scale like Seoul, maybe it can try. At least that's what the official from the city told me today.
Right. Well, Colin, matchmaking has a deep root here in the country. That being said, arranged marriages were also quite common in Korea in the past. That being said, what are your personal thoughts regarding this manner of settling down?
Right. The arranged marriage culture, in a way, it still has traces that are visible in Korea and even visible in Seoul. I mean, when I'm showing somebody around from another country who's visiting Seoul for the first time and we're riding the subway, I usually point out the ads that are in the subway, especially in the stations. And many of those ads are for matchmaking services that promise we'll get you married. We have married 50,000 couples. I think I'm quoting almost verbatim from some of these. They're everywhere. And subway ads are not free. They're not even cheap. These companies are making money somehow. They're making matches, but you never meet anybody who's used them, or at least admits to having used them, but it's still a force in the country. And it's not matchmaking in the very highly traditional way where a neighborhood ajumma would sort of bring you together and say, here's your husband, here's your wife. But you show that to foreigners and the response is interesting because a lot of them then just think, ooh, I don't like the looks of that. I don't like the idea of a marriage being arranged for me, even if I pay for it to be done. And it brings to mind a book that was popular a few years ago by an anthropologist named Joseph Henrich. It's called The Weirdest People in the World. That's the title of the book. In reference to people who are, this is an acronym, Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic, citizens of such countries. And now, okay, think of that acronym. Western, Koreans are not Western, okay, but Korea is highly educated. Some say too educated, industrialized certainly, rich, yes, a rich country, and democratic, I mean in the democratic league certainly. The story of Korea, the story of the Republic of Korea in modern day is the story of a society growing more and more weird in this sense. And the weirder you get in the Heinrichian sense, the less arranged marriage culture seems to make sense to people, the less the family seems like the vital unit, the basic unit of society, as in not just the nuclear family, parents raising a child, but the extended family. The society as made up of extended families is not in the weird worldview, like in the US or in France, for example, and increasingly less in Korea. So you think back and yes, to Westerners, arranged marriage sounds weird in a literal sense. Oh, that's weird, I wouldn't want that. But in this anthropological sense, the weird ones are the ones who can't understand the framework that came in. It's not just a joke, this word weird. It's that it is actually unusual to be Western, educated, industrialized, rich, democratic, is to be something socially and psychologically unusual in human history. You see the world differently. And Korea's story, as I say, is of becoming more and more weird with big upsides. Korea has become much more wealthy, much more comfortable, but it's not easy for society to become weird in that way. And we can still see traces of the past manifesting in new and sometimes surprising ways. And I think they will continue to do so.
Right, going ahead, of course. Right then, Celio, meanwhile, the 9th Asian Winter Games comes to a close in the Chinese city of Harbin tonight. What have been some of the headlines regarding this particular event in the foreign media?
Yeah, the South Korean team, composed of 222 athletes aim to achieve a second place overall following its previous performance in the 2017 Sapporo Games when they finished as the runner-up. On February 8th, the South Korean team made headlines by sweeping 4 gold medals during the first day of intense competition, reaffirming the status as top contenders in the competition. The mixed 2,000-meter relay was particularly noteworthy as it marked the first time in this event was held at the Asian Games. The South Korean team also triumphed at the mixed 2,000-meter relay, the women's 500-meter, and the men 1,500-meter events. South Korean athletes also made some waves outside of skating, particularly with the snowboarding and freestyle skiing categories. Rising star Lee Chae-won clinched gold with impressive runs during the men's slopestyle event. Adding to this excitement, freestyle skier Lee Sung-hoon made headlines also by winning South Korea's first ever gold medal in the men's halfpipe, achieving 97.5 points. The South Korean national team has already, even though the competition is not over, it's ending tonight, has already surpassed its initial goal of winning at least 11 gold medals. But is looking to add more prize to the cabinet to cement a second place overall at the Asian Winter Games. And we can safely say, because it's ending tonight, they will manage to reach their goal for this game in Harbin. And with over 34 nations gathering for these games, the event is said to be historically important, not only for the competition itself and the results we'll see tonight, but also to prepare what comes next. Harbin 2025 is pivotal as it acts as a training ground, a preparation for the forthcoming 2026 Milan Cortina Winter Olympics. Athletes and Korea see this event as a unique opportunity to show what they're capable of, but also show their rival what they can provide for the next game, and I think the next Olympics game will be very interesting and exciting to see for Korea.
Right, for sure. And Colin, beyond the medal count, the foreign media, they've also covered that as quite a bit of the so-called Gen Z athletes leaving their mark on global sporting events in recent times. What have been some of the contributions by Korean Gen Z athletes, do you think?
Right. We should think about the breakdown generationally here. You hear the expression MZ generation all the time in Korea. That's supposedly everybody born from 1980 through the year 2000. Well, pretty wide swath of humanity there. But then when I hear Gen Z discussed in an athletic context, it tends to be later. They tend to be younger. They tend to be born in the 2000s, which is exactly the age you would expect them to be participating in elite athletic competitions. You're going to be in your 20s or even your late teens, as some of these gold medalists were. And so, yes, there's some of the coverage of the Asian Games this year had the tone of, the Asian Games, they aren't as well known as they used to be, don't attract as much attention as they used to. Some people didn't know they were happening until they were almost over. And so there's that, but then there's this sense that maybe these Gen Z athletes, if you like, can sort of bring more attention to the Asian Games. And maybe they have already in this set of games. For example, there are certain events that Korea excels at, like speed skating. I know Lee Na-hyun and Kim Min-sun, gold medalists, have gained some attention. Short track speed skating, for whatever reason, Korea tends to dominate in it and has for quite some time. There were several gold medals, and Kim Gi-lee has got a lot of attention because she's young. She's younger than the others, and as Celio told us, the Asian Games are often seen as a sort of runway, an entryway to the Olympics, and so she's so young that she's going to have her shot and then some, potentially, in the Olympics. For Korea itself, the Asian Games were, in a way, preparation for the Olympics. As we may recall, Korea hosted the Asian Games in '86 with an eye towards sort of getting ready for the Olympics in '88. So there is a sort of national metaphor there as well. What else? So figure skating. Cha Jun-hwan and the Kim Chae-yeon, they just sort of swept their events and beating some serious Japanese competition, as I understand it. And Celio mentioned as well, I took note of Lee Sung-hoon, the skier, because I really wasn't aware that there was such a thing as freestyle half-pipe skiing, but there you have it. I mean, in the Olympics last year too in Paris, there were some Gen Z athletes from Korea getting a lot of attention, making waves. In Taekwondo, there was Kim Yoo-jin. She got a gold medal. There was the archer, Im Shi-hyun, I think was her name, and shooting as well. There were many gold medals in shooting, but ironically, all the attention that Korea received for shooting did not go to a gold medalist. It went to her name, Kim Ye-ji, with all the apparatus, and she had good style. She might have been a silver medalist, which is still impressive, but a lot of people in Korea think if it's not gold, it's not anything. Well, there's a lesson for you, because Kim Ye-ji's cultural impact shows that maybe she's not quite Gen Z, she was a little older at the time, but gold is not everything. I think we can take that lesson away from Paris last year.
She has impressive composure.
Indeed.
Right, so let's end on a sobering note then. I understand the latest ranking of Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index is available. Do tell us a bit more about this particular list and its broader implications.
Yeah, this year Denmark topped the ranking of 180 countries globally with the lowest level of public sector corruption for the 7th year straight in 2024, closely followed by Finland and Singapore. Other countries that made up to the top 10 of Transparency International Corruption Perception Index, that's the full title of the report, included New Zealand, Luxembourg, Norway, Switzerland, followed by Sweden, Netherlands, Australia, Iceland, and Ireland. South Korea is ranking 30 with a score 64 out of 100. The report noted that 2/3 of the country scored below 50 out of 100. Transparency 0 to 100 scale, which is derived from certain independent data sources, and where 0 is highly corrupt and 100 is very clean. What was interesting in this new report is Transparency warned that the balance was tipping toward greater corruption in the world globally, posting significant declines in more countries than in the past 12 years. And a few countries have seen actually their score improved over the last years. What was very interesting in the last report, the report also warned that corruption was undermining effort to combat the global climate crisis, putting $1 trillion of government funding, spending, we don't exactly know where, but through corruption, all this money that is injected to make a green transition, green energy, is being lost somewhere for some people's profit. So the CEP, Mara Martini, chief organizer, said it's imperative to take urgent action against this corruption that is harming not only the society, but the planet and the environment, because that's a lot of money that is going to waste every year. And so we should really track down where that money goes so we can make sure it goes to the right project for the environment. So there is maybe a need to talk multilaterally. I know it's maybe not the tendency these days to have like a big discussion, but it's really important to make sure all of our efforts are made to really achieve the goal we set.
Right, for sure. With Korea right now ranking 30th, is it, out of 180 nations,
yes,
with regard to perception about corruption within the public sector,
that's it,
as seen by members of the public, or is it business people?
Oh, it's based on data sources in the public sector.
Okay, right, for sure. So for now, though, there is definitely room for improvement.
There is, but so far Korea is not the worst case, not at all. So it's quite far. It's the average for like Europe or US. So
right,
quite good.
Good to know that. All right, that's all the time we have today. Celio, as always, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts. And Colin, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.
Right, well, that ends this week's editions of Press Perspective. We return with more panel sessions next week, ranging from diplomatic endeavors to end violent confrontations to preparations for tougher global trade. Join us then.